Segment number 2, we're going to take.
There she go. There she go.
No, girl. I'm so sorry.
No, okay. You are fine.
Thank you.
How are you?
Well, we finally, it's ironic that we are doing this today. Our health fair was approved today.
Yes.
And today was a very, cut and paste, and tell, certain people who want to be a part of this, because we're celebrating 5 years of providing services to the Bronx, to a community that has been overlooked, neglected, and practically ignored, and that is the LGBT community.
Right, and this is the Osborne group you're talking about,
yes,
right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. But in general, I don't necessarily want to just place that, I wouldn't call it blame, but place that neglect or overview on all providers. I believe that sometimes, and this is just a belief system of mine, but I don't think it's far-fetched. I think sometimes you need those innovative people like myself, and people like Sean Coleman, and those other different type of leaders to, sprousel people up and do something that's different and innovative. Because what we have done for far too long is that we've sent our best, we've sent our educated, and sometimes the message still didn't get across. So what we end up doing was limiting our access and availability to provide services to people. But we were doing it in a, very nice type of way, and people being neglected. So when I came to Osborne, and under the tutelage of wellness and prevention, there was no anything that ever said LGBTQIA. And it astonished.
Well, before we get deep into that, I want you to introduce yourself and let the audience know who you are and the work that you do for the Osborne group. So let's start by telling us your name, what you do, where the city you're from, and how you got started in this magnificent work that you do.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, everyone, and those who are watching or listening or will see this at another time. I'm Grace Detrevarah. I am the LGBT Liaison and Senior Health Educator at the Osborne Association. We have actually 12 offices around New York State. We have 3 in Brooklyn, 2 in Queens, 1 in Newburgh, 1 in Albany, 1 in Buffalo, and others throughout the prison industrial complex within New York State prison system, also on Rikers Island. So anything regarding those who are affected by the criminal justice system on any level, the Osborne Association is primarily one of those partners that do the work. My title came about due to the fact that I was a former client of Osborne, meaning that in 2012, I went to prison of doing a 4-year sentence for theft and unauthorized credit card use and identity theft. And because I had a previous record, I didn't get any of the amenities that a lot of people, thank God, get today. I had to actually go through the system. And by going through the system, it created who you see today. And how I see myself is I come from the cloth of those who could get at the table, but be productive at those tables. I'm not one for having the credentials and being popular, but are you being impactful, and are you really doing work that is going to impact someone else, not yourself? And that is sometime in
Right.
this work that I do, because I'm going to always keep it on me, but I'm sure we could do some side eyes around some people. But at the end of the day, I saw a need because I saw transgender, non-conforming, and and binary individuals coming through the criminal justice system throughout New York State, and the services that were provided for everyone else was not always amended to us. And if they were amended to us, we could not identify ourselves, or we didn't feel safe to identify ourselves. So that was a
Mhm.
neglectable way in which we navigated ourselves through surviving if you were affected by or locked up by corrections. And I saw that
Mhm.
need, and I didn't know what to do with that need.
So, how do you currently plan to identify and address the most pressing needs of transgender and non-binary individuals that are impacted by incarceration within the community?
Well, I believe that Osborne has given me an opportunity that maybe if I was at another agency that does
Mhm.
similar work, that maybe I would not have gotten the promise and when I say promise, the work would not be so um impactful it has been. And why it's been impactful at Osborne for me is because I did not transition to something. What
Mhm.
I had saw through these years of incarceration and watching my peers throughout the years, there were always people who made it. There were people
Right.
who were so out of my reach and out of my touch, and they weren't a reality to my reality. And
Mhm.
they were in that work. And it just didn't make sense to me that you had educated people who said that they were primarily in favor of empowering trans people, non-binary people. And I'm being very intentional with my words here.
Mhm.
There were not very many people who went out of their way to accommodate transgender and non-binary people who were affiliated or affected by the criminal justice system. So I just started speaking. But I kept having the ability to open my mouth to the right people. And I
Mhm.
always tell this story whether I'm being acknowledged, awarded. And I say it because the story is so organic. I met the
Mhm.
president of Osborne walking up the stairs to actually go to a copy machine. And I have this aura about myself that I'm always about my business. And this
Mhm.
very day, I was coming up the stairs, and this older, mature woman is walking in front of me. I think I knew who she was, but my thought process was I was going through a difficulty of something that was so small regarding some situation, and I said something out loud. You know how you think out loud? And she was in front of me.
Mhm.
And she turned around because what I had said was, my God, if these people could just listen to me sometime. And she turned around and she said, "You must be Grace Detrevarah." Because obviously, if you're president of an agency, I mean, I would hope any president with their muster, they know who works for them. So she did know who I
Mhm.
was, but I wasn't very necessarily, I was a new employee. Of course, everyone knows who the CEO is, but I hadn't had this personal interaction with anyone of that stature other than my supervisor. And
Right.
in her telling me that, I dismissed it. She says, "Well, it's nice meeting you," or whatever. And 2 hours later, I get her secretary calls down to our program assistant saying, "You have an appointment with Liz today in 20 minutes." And I went up there, and at the time, my advocacy, remember, I'm just an employee, I'm a navigator. I haven't done all those wonderful things that I
Mhm.
ultimately ended up doing. And this was in 2016. And I had the meeting with her, but at the same time, I had written an article for USA Today that you can go look up. It's the July 15th, 2021, my article about my rape encounter while being a teacher's aide and on in Sing Sing Correctional Facility, and how I allowed the whole process to go through. And I explained why I did, because what I had seen previously is that when you went to the parole board and you had any type of disciplinary or any type of documentation that wasn't a bright one, there was a possibility that that would not be good on your release. Now, at the same time, I'm working in law library as a trans woman in Sing Sing Correctional Facility and general population. And if anyone who knows about the criminal justice system, that is impactful for a trans woman, not a gay man. And no offense to those gay men, my gay brothers, but this was impactful because to work as a program, as a prisoner, as a trans woman with formulating breasts and feminine features and soft features in a classic prison, was shocking to everyone else, but it wasn't to me. I always felt that I was where I belonged in this little job here, because if anyone has ever been incarcerated or been in any sort of setting where you have to request legal services, New York State has the privilege of having prisoners helping prisoners.
Now, do you feel that your lived experience also helps improve the effectiveness of your advocacy when it comes to policy change that directly benefits transgender and non-conforming people in the prison system?
Absolutely, because we got to take a, if you're a Black woman on this thing and you a Baptist woman, we got to do a hallelujah dance, because that article allowed me to do what I do now for the last 4 years, to actually go to John Jay. And this was my second year of actually being able to present to correction officers as a courtesy. It doesn't really amount to anything, I believe. I believe it's a cut and paste thing for the city. However, this isn't 2 years ago. This isn't 5 years ago. This isn't 10 years ago, when this was just not heard of. They've always had trainers in their academies. But when we're talking about a Black formal prisoner who is now an educated senior educator, health educator at one of the formative agencies that deal with corrections, Black and trans, and I'm coming into a very hostile environment. And let us be clear, if I could tell you some of those stories of the waiting for to speak to them, when you're coming into the college and they know who you are, the hostility and when I say hostility, they're made to do this. They didn't want to be there. And
I feel you did tell your story because you wrote a book, right?
Yes.
You wrote a book about your story and what you went through.
Yes.
And is that book still in circulation? Can we?
Well, it's been defunct now, because they now want to do a new rewrite, because the great thing about when you're impactful to people, you do so much work that for me, you do so much work that you don't particularly start paying attention to the volume of the work. And I think when I wrote that 28-page book that I call an essay, but they're calling a book, has been so impactful, because it has allowed other trans women to now be selected to do stuff that they had always been doing. So I've never looked at it as this was Grace congratulating come up or journey. This has allowed other agencies to, because it's hard to get in corrections. It's hard to be a partner with corrections because it is so toxic. The administration is toxic. The understanding of them understanding a Black trans woman or anything LGBT. So to have that's why I continue to say that I think that I had a lot of assistance and a lot of opportunities. and I just empowered others. Because I have this saying, Mr. Javannah, and I say this all the time. I got a job. I got a place to work. I got a place to live. I'm not going to jail today. But that's not everyone's story.
Right.
And I never want people to feel that because you may see me on TV or you may see me on a magazine, I still take the train. Not that I got to, but I do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I still go to the dollar store, but I still wear my fur like them children because I can today.
Right.
I say that with not only humility, but I'm changing what I hope that you blast this somewhere where you write it or put it up at, is that I'm about breaking the legacy of Sylvia and Marsha. We are no longer tragedies.
Right.
And the only way that I believe this country, our own community can believe that is when we do consistent work, not the seasonal shit like June, where June comes in and people you never hear from, you hear now. And that's okay. We welcome them along. But I'm one of those advocates. I work from January to December. I don't do the Octobers. I don't do those seasonal LGBTQIA observances and celebrations and remembrances, which we all do. But I do this as you do, and there's so many others who do this work. We do this 12 months a year. And I take that in pride because as I said to Lee Soldier when I was recognized at the Black Pride Awards in 2022, that it stopped being about me a long time ago. Because I got house keys now. I remember when my house key was the hotel or somebody's couch.
Right.
So I always want my supporters, my foes, the people who are watching to know that this is a journey and you got to want to do this journey for a purpose. The check is good, but a check should not be your motivation, because that's where
I also feel that when it comes to advocacy work, everyone's approach is different.
Yes.
And everyone's approach is based on the bandwidth that they can withstand within doing this work. Because, like you said, some of us work from January to December. And by the time the end of December come along, we are burnt the hell out by the time the following January comes. So we have to give people, that grace in this work and just being appreciative of them when they can withstand those moments in time, that they can hold that capacity within themselves to be able to fight for what they believe in. Because sometimes life be lifing, and we can't do it as much as we want to. So I definitely get what you're saying. And I totally agree, but we have to make sure that we give, these people in this advocacy work grace, because baby, as it can get heavy.
I want to give some insight about the heavy. I believe the heavy is going to always be there because the advocacy is heavy in itself. I will just say this, and I learned this as I'm going on 12 years of advocacy, 12 years, strong heart, 12 years. And what I've known,
12 years.
And I say that as you do the milestones, as you do the things that and this is for anyone listening, even if it's just helping that trans person who lives in your building fill out a form, or tell them about a certain celebration or a session of something that can be impactful for them. That's advocacy work.
Absolutely. And people don't always see it. We don't always see it.
I believe that when people, but I also want to get this message across, and I know that so many of my advocate peers and colleagues and sisters and brothers are going to love me for saying this, because we don't get to say it enough, but it needs to be said often. And that is, Advocacy is not a joke. Advocacy does not come with, okay, we came and we got what we came for, and now let me go sit down until something else comes up. Absolutely not. I have gotten so deep into advocacy that I don't want to do this alone. So I tell the most organic side of advocacy to make it organic, to let people know that, yes, I do have all these degrees and certifications and trainings. However, you could take it to the low compound and go on Google, go on YouTube and take a training of how some of the things that I have to legally do. You may have to pay for that training on a scaling fee. But my message that I want to say in favor for all advocates is that advocacy is not something to play with when it is pertaining to marginalized people in climates which are never balanced for us. They are never balanced with us. You know, Javannah, I know that you can, as a woman running the agency and the publications and the numerous things that you do, you can damn well best say that if you're not consistent with what you do, if you're not always fresh with what you do, as a Black trans woman which they know your title, we have to consistently, we are the family member who everybody waits to see how they come on Thanksgiving. We coming to see, you know, we always got that one family member, what they gonna wear this year, or what type of potato salad she gonna make this year, whatever. And that is how I see trans women and men, especially our trans men as well. When it comes to advocacy, we almost have to be abrasive. We have to be in front of a line where it's other superstars and people who do wonderful work. And this message is straight for the trans person, the non-conforming, not the L, the G, or the B. I am being very intentional what I'm saying. Because when you have reached the pinnacles of where I and you and others have, where you're at meetings with public officials, budgets are being made, people's lives are at stake, and we're at the table, we have to be damn near just as louder, because there's a great possibility just because we're at the table don't mean that we're going to be counted.
Right.
And
that is
that
very
is my
true.
message to anyone who's listening to this and you just happen to be transgender, non-conforming, binary. I am saying this is directly and intentional for you, because I, as you, we sit through those meetings where there are 12 gay men and 3 trans women and others. And if we are to tell the truth, we don't have the privilege to be in these meetings and glide through and just say we were there. We literally have to speak up. We literally have to bring some ideas. We have to do a lot of however. And so I say that after saying advocacy is not a joke. So those who may look at me and look at Cayenne and look at you and look at Bridjon and look at Kim Watson, look at Cayenne Dorshore, and you see the glamour and the shine, baby, pull it back. Pull it back. Look at your own story, Javannah. Look at your own story. They look at us with this awe, whatever. See us in awe during the week when we arguing with motherfuckers and going through it. Be in awe of us then, okay? We know we don't even get to go off like I'm doing right now, because this seems like, see how them trans people do? We have to be upstanding. We have to be on our shit. We almost have to bring Diane Carroll damn near alive when we at these meetings.
Right. So that being said, what's the metrics that you use to measure the success of your initiatives when it comes to trans liberation or empowerment? Like,
I
how do
don't
you
believe that
measure that success?
I measure it, if we were to go 1 to 10, I would say 6,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm one trans woman who is a part of a collective of other trans women and other trans men and non-binary people. And when you are speaking for a group of people, my words, my ideas, my aura may sound good, may be good, but they may not be for everyone. Therefore, I work in a
Mm-hmm.
collective. I think we do so much better, regardless how good I may have a good speech or a good thing to say. I can't do this work without you, Javannah. I can't do this work without Kim Watson. I can't do this without Tabitha Gonzalez. I can't do this without Sean Coleman. I can't do this without um, Hope Gazelle. I can't do any of those things
Mm-hmm.
collectively. And when other advocates see that, past the shine, past the acknowledgement, because they have those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday meetings where they want to pull their weave out and wig off and their goddamn thing else. But we don't get to do that because it stops being about us. Because we got to
Right.
think about that trans woman who doesn't have health care. We have to think about that trans woman who's incarcerated and struggling with first being in there and how she's going to survive going through that. We don't have, in my opinion, the ability that the L, the G, and the B and the Q may have when they are uh, in those type of predicaments and circumstances. They have better outlets. They have additional outlets. We may have one or two, and we got to use them and get it right every time.
And
Every
speaking of
time.
healthcare, I'm glad you brought that up with when it comes to the healthcare, because what do you how can we improve access to that healthcare and that mental health that we need for transgender and gender nonconforming people, or gender non-binary people, excuse me, post incarceration?
Wow. Okay.
How do we do that for them when it comes to their health and their mental health and their physical health?
I don't think they got it, but we been got it. And what I mean by that is that we got to stop sending people who don't know our stories to take our stories to heal us. To we have to, but the message also on the other side of that coin is that we have to start getting educated, meaning us trans
Mhm,
women, us trans men, us non-binary, and all that others. We have to
mhm,
do this because this journey will stay as it was. How many times have we gone to an agency, a hospital, a clinic, and they say on paper, or there is a documentation or a label that says LGBT, and then we go
mhm,
as a trans woman or a trans man, and we go there, and there is this cisgender ally.
mhm,
Or if we are a trans woman, usually a black or white, feminine, gay man. We have to stop getting mad at that picture, and we need to go get ourselves educated. And I say from the
mhm.
very bottom, while you're incarcerated, if you can get the hard enough, because it takes heart and strength to do that, pick up a book because you're too concerned about your own safety. Everyone's not going to be as brave as I was, and I get that. But get a book in your hand. If you have to wait till you get home, you go to those agencies that are in your region, that are in my region, and you
So
ask,
you
how do
feel
I?
that education would
Yeah,
improve the access?
absolutely. Because how many years have we had these initiatives, and the T has always been there, but we don't see us. We don't see us as
Mhm,
facilitators. We don't see us as an agency in which concerns themselves with whatever the agenda is. But we're
mhm.
always there. You
Right,
understand? We're always
right.
there, regardless, whatever their agenda is. And I just say I say it with love. We got to stop fucking around, meaning that us trans women and trans men. And now we got to stop thinking that, like my how do I call it? My copywritten statement that I always say, saving lives to save our own. We got to start saving our own. And when I say our own, that means transgender, non-binary. We got to stop allowing, in my opinion, the L, the G, the B, and the Q to just automatically think they got our back. And they may, on face value, they may want to be nice. But we need to get our asses in them books and go to school and get those grants. Everybody can't Vogue. Everybody ain't going to be pretty. Everybody isn't going to be in media. Everybody ain't going to want to be a sex goddess. Some of us want to just have a regular job. Some of us just want to live, and I shouldn't have to do all that other stuff to get what that other trans girl got. It should be across the board. Because guess what? When it comes to L, the B, and the Q, it is for them.
Right.
I hope you kind of got what I just said. It is for them.
I got it.
We got to stop limiting ourselves. We got 100 grand prize winners and lovely models and all those wonderful fluffy things. But we
have to learn that everybody's journey looks very different.
Oh, yes.
Everybody's journey is not going to be the same.
And we have to show that journey. Where I have a issue is, and I told this to Jamel Fletcher of Swerve, the publisher of Swerve. I told him once, so I'm going to tell this agency as well. We understand the marketing of a ballroom. We understand the marketing of all those beautiful things in which we dominate. However, there is a demographic of us who just want to go and be a mother. Some of us just want to work at McDonald's. Some of us don't want to do shit. And guess what? That should be okay. Because guess what? It's okay for the L, the G, and the Q. So my message, my whole existence of advocacy, and I can't say this no clearer, is to leave a legacy that it wasn't a platform that was so outrageous that nobody else could do it or reach the level. I did this openly. The journey, you can go from A to B. How did I get this? How did this girl get to go to the White House? How did this girl get to go to all these things? And she's talking about health, prison, and visibility. But wait a minute, didn't I just see her at the Grammy party? Didn't I just see her at... That is the stuff that impresses others. They don't impress me. The only thing it does for me is give me more assets so I can get more jobs for transgender, non-conforming, and binary people. That's what it has done.
It's work. It's just work.
Yes. But the message, and Javannah, the message is I want someone, because there's someone somewhere watching both of us, Javannah, saying that I'm not as pretty as Javannah. I'm not as orative as Grace is, and I'm not as flaring as Tabitha Gonzalez and them girls who do that wonderful work. But I got to contribute to something. I want to see that. So I want to hear, them to hear it from me, regardless how they see me. I want that trans girl, that trans man, that non-binary person to say that I want to be celebrated for being absolutely who I am. And that could be a bus driver, a dishwasher, a sex worker, or whatever. Not the conformed version of transgender, non-binary people. Because all of us ain't going to get it. Shit, it took me 18 years to get it. Whatever get it mean, okay? It took me 18 years to get it. So everybody ain't going to get it. Everybody ain't going to stop going to jail. But when they go to jail, they shouldn't have to be raped while they're there. If they're in prison, they shouldn't have to be ostracized from not getting education because they're too scared to go to the classroom because all the gang members are there and all that, so they don't get education. Girls do this. They want to make it home alive, so they don't go and take a program. I had to do all those things.
So what do you feel is the most significant barriers that prevent transgender individuals who have been incarcerated from accessing necessary services? And how do you propose to overcome that?
With people like myself and you and others who have the ability and the assets to have linkages and resources, and connections to those people who know that, even if we don't know how to do it, but have the audience to go to those people, that we reach out and know that Grace may walk across Westchester Avenue tomorrow and get hit by a car. What I've done should not go when I get hit by that car. Because that is the sad story about a lot of people like me. We do impactful stuff and we don't pass it on. We don't leave a pathway, an easy, generated, you can do it too platform. So if I'm a trans woman in prison or a sex worker, or I sell pizza, or I ride my bike, riding, doing whatever, I don't have those wonderful jobs. And I end up in situations that are something I can't control. I want to be able to know that there's someone or some agency that I can go to that will hear me. You have these trans women like me. And that's how I believe we can be impactful, by seeing the change and speaking about it. Don't see it and keep it to yourself because I may not know how to do it, but put it in the atmosphere. I get all these, sometimes I'm like, why do these people invite me to these parties? And then I go to the parties and I'm sitting right next to Ashton, the medical commissioner of New York City. We had a wonderful conversation. Now I'm invited to all the health meetings that maybe I wouldn't have been invited to in the past. So I can take that information and make sure that the trans community, because as I say, the LGB and the Q, they're going to get theirs. And this is not, and I don't want anyone to hear this as if this is some form of, I am, what is the word that I'm looking for? I don't want anyone to think I'm resentful of the L, the G, and the B, and the Q. I just know that I am tired of some of us making it when all of us can.
Right.
The simple, essential things should not be that hard for us, and they are.
Definitely, I totally agree. What long-term goals do you have for enhancing the rights and well-being of transgender individuals, particularly those affected by incarceration and health disparities?
Be realistic in your holistic approach, because what I have learned, even in my education, that you could talk about numbers, you could talk about all those scary things that come with health disparities and all those scary things that come with incarceration. However, if you're not breaking it down to the last compound, to the community in which you say you claim to stand for, then you are doing work that is not helpful. So what I am doing, and what I intend to hope that anyone who does this work does, is leave a legacy that is realistic, not something that turns into a Lifetime movie. Because ain't no goddamn movie being made here. These is lives being saved. And that's the best that I can give for me, because I say this to myself every day. I work in the Bronx, and I have to go across Westchester Avenue, and cars are going any old which way. And every day I'm very careful about how I conduct myself walking across that, because I know that I'm carrying so much energy and ideas for a community that not only needs it, but it's required for me to stay relevant to myself, to the people I serve, by being careful, conducting myself the right way, because everything that you, me, have worked for will go, when that car hits me, if I have not passed on as I'm doing this work, the work I done died when that car hit me. And we have to look at it in your reality, not mine, whatever your reality is. We have to, what's that old saying? Each one teach one. It sounds so corny. It sounds corny today, but that is our story today.
Yeah. It's not corny at all. It's our reality, because that's how information and education is passed. Each one teach one.
Because I want to tell a funny story, a little 3-second story. Today I saw 3 trans women, and I think that they were under 21. beautiful, happy to be who they were. And they were in a neighborhood or a placement that the behavior in which they were conducting themselves, I feared for them. So I didn't leave the area until they got on this train when I got on, because it was the area in which it was. People were coming from school. You had children. You had an area where there's a lot of drug use, gang affiliation, all that is one area. And these two beautiful trans women, I'm not talking just trans, I'm talking about beautiful trans women. And they were sitting there being who they were. And they had attracted all of this attention because of their appearance. It's hot outside. They want to be who young people are. Young people want to peel out clothes. They want to be young people. At the same time, they didn't forget because they don't need to remember. However, they were in a neighborhood where this has the possibility to go left.
Real fast.
At any real fast from zero to this. And soon as and old timers are going to know what I mean by this. The OGs know what I'm going to say. They have the appearance of what the kids and what some of us call passing, but they did one thing, and I would not leave that area because they did not see what I saw. They started calling each other Miss Thing and using the lingo that we use among ourselves, which should be okay anywhere. However, at this time, school was getting out, teenagers were getting out. This area is full of drug treatment centers, a drug paraphernalia area, and gang members. That's toxicity on top of toxicity.
Right.
And it happened right in front of me. These guys came over who were walking through, saw the beautiful women, and got stuck by appearances. For 3 seconds, they listened and heard one thing, Miss Thing, and said, "Oh, you finished the rest of the story." I was not leaving.
Yeah.
Because this area, there's a great possibility this is not going to turn out right. And lo and behold, the train came and it happened, but the guys didn't get on the train, but they did. And so did I. And it's little things like that that's advocacy. And I never went over and said anything to them, but they did not know I was not leaving.
Right.
And that is where small advocacies start for those who may be on this call or listening. That's a form of advocacy. That's a form of not only self-care, but community care. So I just wanted to just say that that's where we are as a nation, not just New York City. I'm sure it goes on in Albany and wherever you're located, those listening. This is not an anomaly. This happens everywhere.
Right.
And us OGs, us those who know the outcome of that turning into a T-door moment. Okay. We have to be very, I can't even get the word out. We have to be very careful of making sure we pay attention.
Right.
And I do that. So that was just something that happened today. It fell right into this conversation, but that happened today. Yeah.
So in spite of all that Grace does,
yes,
with all your work, all your advocacy,
yes,
what does Grace do for herself, for her self-care? What makes you, just brings you back to yourself and just centers you?
Wow.
Oh, we going on a trip. Where we going to?
Oh gosh, what centers me? Now, it's a really funny story because a lot of people have, when I say this, they laugh, especially my friends. I love the rain. And when it rains, I wish that it's during the day because I go to museums. I'm a secret museum person. I go to the museum at least once a week, especially the free because our little girl's a little broke. I go to museums. I I'm a little corny. As glamorous as everyone see me as, I'm really an old Detroit girl who just likes museums and jazz, and I'm corny. So that's how I decompose.
That's
That's
how
how,
you
that's how I do.
decompress and just
That's
let
how I
yourself.
decompress.
Yeah.
Yes. Rainy
Okay.
days. If it stopped raining right now, I'm getting my coat. I love the rain. I love
Yeah.
it. So I'm a little different. I will take the Long Island Railroad and go into some area where it's woods and get off and then get back on later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just different. So that's how, that gets me away from the rustle and bustle of all this work that I'm always doing.
How you
So I hope
find
I
your
answered that.
peace. Yeah, you did. You
Okay.
did. That's how you find your peace.
Yes.
What, and that being said, having that find your peace, what brings you joy? What brings you absolute joy?
Um, Javon, I had a privilege, or we had the privilege of attending BFTA
Mm-hmm.
Collective.
Mm-hmm.
I am never not humbled. I am always filled with joy when I get invited to stuff like that because I've never know who does it.
Mm-hmm.
Who's inviting me? Who's sending me? And when I got there and I saw amen moment, when I saw who they were honoring and the occupants of that event, and I got to go backstage and so many impactful people who told me they wanted to make sure I was there because I've impacted their lives, and to
Mm-hmm.
keep, confidentiality down to confidentiality. A lot of people come to me. A lot of people come to me. I'm almost
Mm-hmm.
about to tell, but a lot of people come to me, and it brings me joy to know that everyone else sees whoever they see, but I know people in other forms. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why you may see me at the Grammy Awards, or you may see me at our things, or you may see me at their stuff. And when I say their, the man, you may see me at their stuff.
Yeah, the cis het stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're definitely
Mm-hmm.
seeing that. And that is I have done so much about visibility with us, especially the uncomfortable conversations when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to things like sex work and HIV and prevention and the drug culture. I don't talk about fluffy issues. I don't talk
Mm-hmm.
about nice issues. I talk about things that are complicated and angry and transforming lives. And that's why I say advocacy is not a joke.
Mm-hmm.
To walk into John Jay and walk into that uh, academy that day, 34 days ago, to speak to the new class of correction officers that are going to Rikers Island, knowing that they have a handbook that we help them write that they don't even follow.
Mm.
And then you top it by having one of the premier explainers, okay, breaking down whatever's in their manual or on their agenda that day. It brings me joy to know that less than 7 years ago, I was in a prison,
Mm.
but I was at the White House last year. Okay.
Right.
Or I got to speak up for monkeypox when they were getting ready to put the testing centers in Black neighborhoods when the majority of the first infected were similar to what we went through in the 80s and 90s with HIV. They put all the clinics in the Black neighborhoods and had all the Chelsea kids and the white people coming to our neighborhoods, but had nothing for us.
Right.
I had to go to City Hall and remind them, y'all not getting ready to play that card again.
Yeah.
And those are the things that brings me joy, that I'm here to tell them, no, you're not getting ready to repeat some shit that you wasn't even here for. But by the way, let me tell you what you're doing. And it took
Mm-hmm.
Ashton, our health commissioner. It took Eric and his staff, Eric Adams. It took Sean Coleman and all those people to give me the ability to tell Power, y'all not doing
Mm-hmm.
this. Y'all not doing this. Y'all did this in the 90s. And then you didn't only do this in New York, you did this in every Black neighborhood around this country.
Right.
When it came to HIV, when it came to monkeypox, when it came to any ailment that came with behavior stigma,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't the first. It was always them. But when it came to treatment and it came to how we're going to medicate them, they did it in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So it brings me joy, Javannah, that I get to, in this time, tell them that no, you're not going to do that and you're not going to do this. Even if they go do it, I'm on record of saying, no, somebody did speak up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Cecilia spoke up. Cayenne speaks up. Breton speaks up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Alyssa Crespo speaks up. And we don't speak up in the nicest goddamn ways. And nor are we intended to.
All right.
So I'm in joy that I get to do that. Because there were people who wanted to do this and don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to my journey. Those who are listening, when you see those, as they want to call us, superstars or the popular people, take these bitches up, because they take me up. They walk right up to me wherever they see me. Girl, what's going on with such and such and such? Because they know I know. And if I don't know, bitch, you ought to know. Because you ought to know.
Right.
You're saying you know, so you ought to know. And if you don't know, go find out to know. And I take pride in that. I take
Mm-hmm.
pride in that. Because I know they're watching, they're saying, wait a minute, this is the same bitch who went to jail. I've been to jail. This is a girl who went through health disparities. Oh, I'm going through health disparities. This shit ain't that complicated.
Right.
And that's my message. I believe that message is with a lot of us. But a lot of times we just pick and choose when to say it. Not me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So tell us what's next for Grace. What do you have coming up? How can people get in touch with you? Where can we see you? Like, let us know what's going on with Grace.
Okay, first of all, everyone, again, I'm Grace Detrevarah of the Osborne Association. I'm the LGBT Liaison and Senior Health Educator. You can get in touch with me. I'm on Facebook as Grace Detrevarah. And I say this with humility, but it's going to come across as Diana Ross or Diane Carroll, and I love it, and so do we. And that is, all you got to do is Google me.
Mm-hmm.
Google my name, go to YouTube and YouTube my name, and I'm doing something all the time.
All
But
the time.
let me be specific. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
June 12th, we will be having our annual health fair at the Osborne Association. It is our 5th year, and we are calling it 5 years of community engagement, pride, and service. We will have the appearances of our Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson. We'll be having our in New York City Office of Public Advocate, Jamani Williams. We will be having other public officials and 35 LGBT service providers for
Wow.
us. Because if
Yes.
anybody who does this work, health fairs are always, we have to get in where we fit in. This
Mm-hmm.
is called the LGBT Case Management Annual Health Fair, our 5th year. We started off with 12 vendors. We don't have any more assets at our health fair. That is community answering to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I was just the vessel to do it. And
Awesome.
it's always a collective process to give our health fairs that we give there. On a advocacy part of you, what I'm doing, I'm speaking to this wonderful magazine, Blaqueout. Okay,
Yes.
I'm speaking to them, a group of people who I have always just wanted. I wanted the people in your region to hear me, and then I come to find out y'all knew me very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just all I'm always in awe when I go to Albany or when I go to Rochester, especially Rochester, because I was in a
Mm-hmm.
jail down the block from Rochester. So y'all got to get me there to do some talks or whatever, because when I was in those prisons working in those law libraries, you make alliances, you make strange alliances.
Mm.
And those strange alliances are now powerful and empowering alliances. And I'm in New York City. But because I was in prisons that were in Rochester, all you got to do is bring up Grace Detrevarah. They may say it in a very off-cuff way or not appropriate way, like, "Oh, that bitch who worked in law library." I receive all that. I receive all that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that girl who's always cussing the public officials out and speaking up for the girls, and they always emphasize the girls.
The
Okay.
girls.
I never ever. It never gets old.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't need to get old, because we are continue to be the stepchildren, the disbarment of the acronym,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. And I don't hold it against them. It just allows me to continue to do uh, what I need to do for us.
Mm-hmm.
Socially, I have just become involved with the ballroom community. As
Oh.
a 61-year-old trans Black woman who has had all this style that people have always given me through the years,
Mm-hmm.
I can't dance, I can't vogue, I can't do none of those things. But a girl can put a suit together and put a little outfit together. And
Right.
if you know our community, they've been recognizing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with an idea that I'm just going to give you a hint. So you're one of the first people I'm giving this information to. I will be giving a press conference with ballroom houses nationally, because it will be an introduction of telling ballroom that ballroom, your house, has
Mm-hmm.
people who work in social services.
Come on,
In your
exclusive
house,
information. Yes. Come
in your
on.
house, you have people
Mm-hmm.
who work in hospitals. In
Mm-hmm.
your house, you have lawyers. You have people who are impactful to your house. I am calling out all ballroom houses this June, along with the ballroom mothers and fathers, and saying to every individual mother and father of ballroom, from California to New York to New Orleans to Chicago to Detroit to Philly, my message to ballroom: we are there. We're providers and we're in ballroom. We have got
Mm-hmm.
to stop allowing our own children in our homes to enjoy the party. And then after the party is over, they have nowhere to go. They have
Mm-hmm.
no services. These are your ballroom children. You know who you are. So you were one of the first that we're telling this information to. Print it,
Awesome.
tell it, say it, whatever. But it is going to happen. And that is my induction into ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a grace moment to come in that way, because I damn sure ain't getting ready to vote. That's, so I will be going to this year's latex ball, and we will be announcing my by then the announcement didn't happen already, but we will
Mm-hmm.
be they will be introducing me with the House of Bugetto, and that
Oh.
means bougie ghetto.
And ghetto.
Okay.
Yes.
So we are Bugetto, and I am the matriarch of that house now. And now the Rochester and Upper Region now knows this, but the nation will know it this June, because I will be doing a press conference with ballroom from around the world, because we have now become corporate. This started
Mm-hmm.
in back rooms. We know where ballroom started. We don't need to hear that story. But what we
Right.
do need to know is that ballroom still has some of the most talented people, but our talented people are dying of broken hearts. They're dying of HIV. They're dying of crystal meth usage and all other forms of drug usage. They're survival sex working when should be other options, but when that is the only option, sex work is work. So, but everyone's affiliated with ballroom, and it disturbed me through the decades, not recently, but through the decades, as a person who works in social services. It was never comfortable to go to a ball and look across the room and see half of your clientele of people who should be in your office like yesterday. And their energies is with this wonderful art form. But then when the lights go out and the doors are closed, they're out on the street, or they're taking those winnings to do things that are not empowering for themselves. So my message to ballroom is, let's educate ourselves. Let's stop waiting till our ballroom kids get in situations when we are already in the house.
Amen.
So that is my message, and that's what I'm doing these days. There's also the Bronxboro President Pride celebration. I know. Vanessa Gibson will be giving me a proclamation this year. I say that it's quite welcome because I love the Bronx. It was the first place that accepted me with all of my baggage and the celebratory reputation that comes with me. I didn't do this by myself. I did this collectively. So I always thank Sean Coleman and Kiara St. James and Tabitha and Kim Watson and Cayenne Dorshore. I cannot thank them enough. It's phenomenal how they have collaborated with me. Because again, I'm the advocate that does not talk about good things. I talk about the mud. Getting us out of the mud.
The real.
And it's okay. And I make it look good.
Yeah.
I make it look good. So that's the joy that it gives me to go to awards. And I'm like, how did I get here? And then when I get there, I see, because they tell me. They'll literally come to me, Grace, I made sure you got to this because you've been an inspiration to me. I'm never going to break that anonymity, but so many daughters and sons of mine and peers of mine and colleagues of mine put me in spaces where I need to be. So that's what I'm doing these days. I am just so appreciative that you gave me this opportunity because I'm coming to Rochester. I'm coming to Albany. Y'all getting ready to hit his big ass mouth because I know there's some collaborating efforts that y'all need up there that I want to need to help y'all with. So thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Grace, thank you for this wonderful interview and taking the time out to sit down with us and talking to me and allowing us to hear your story and all the phenomenal work that you do in the community. Thank you all for listening. My name is Javannah Davis, columnist for Blaqueout magazine, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Peace out, everybody.